monitor with the phone.
Mhm.
Could use the phone,
I have three monitors.
but it's gonna reverberate you'll get feedback. I think we're on. Let me just make
It
sure.
says we're live.
Okay, perfect. Yep, looks like we are live. All right, everyone, welcome to our show. My name is Vase. I'm the host of the Left for the Vultures YouTube channel, and I'm also the lead designer of the Left for the Vultures role playing game. And with me today,
I'm Geo from the Headless Hammerhead YouTube channel.
awesome. That light's beating on me, so I'm gonna start sweating. But yeah, I think I was too dark just a second ago. Welcome, guys. We have a very special episode today. We will be doing a deep dive into the Left for the Vultures role playing game. Um, the game is almost completely finished. Most of the art is finished, and we're going to be going through my InDesign document for most of the chapters. We won't go through all the chapters, but we'll be briefly kind of talking about each section and how the game works, things like that. If you have any questions during the live stream, feel free to post them. We'll be happy to answer them. And we'll also be kind of giving you a inside look at the actual Kickstarter page. So that's going to be fun too. You ready, Joe?
Heck yeah, I'm ready. Let's dive in.
Well, actually, before we dive in, I wanted to talk about some news because today is Thursday, the 30th of July, 2026. And Gen Con is going on right now as we speak, as we are doing this live stream.
Mm.
And Gen Con is the biggest tabletop role playing convention in the country. And everyone who is something in the tabletop industry usually goes to Gen Con. So you have all the publishers like Chaosium, Hasbro, of course, is going to be there. Um, Paizo for Pathfinder, everyone who's someone, right? And then of course, as well as content creators from YouTube, TikTok, whatever, Instagram, they're all going to be there, or they're all there right now.
Well, I'm
So
glad you're hitting this because I've been traveling with the family and we've been busy, so I have
yeah,
no idea
you had no idea
what is
Gen Con
going
was
on.
going. Yeah, we plan on going to Gen Con next year.
Yeah.
But this year, so people were very critical of Dungeons and Dragons because for many years they didn't even have a booth set up on at Gen Con, not even a table. They didn't have any kind of events going on, no speakers for Hasbro. It's almost like they turned their back on the community, and people noticed. A lot of people, even the ones who are all for fifth edition and Hasbro and all that stuff, Wizards of the Coast, all the pro people still were critical of their decision to not have a presence at all in Gen Con. It's almost like people were getting the feeling that Wizards of the Coast was, by those actions, saying they were too good for the plebs, So it's good that they've kind of turned things around. I think they've noticed there's been a lot of backlash for recent news and things that have gone on in the past. So they're trying to reconnect with the community. And this year they went all out. They went the other direction. So what they did is they rented an entire building and they call it the Wizards of the Coast Castle or something to that effect.
Mm.
And it's like a whole experience. You go there and they're having like speakers and events and keynotes. And so the keynote today was the big one. They had big people from the industry talking. They had, and basically with that they implied to bring in a bunch of the different what are they called, settings for Dungeons and Dragons that have been popular, that people have kind of been wanting Wizards of the Coast to put out products for, but they haven't been able to put out products. One of those being Greyhawk. So they brought out Gary Gygax's son, Luke Gygax. He came onto the stage and was talking. Joe Manganiello, who is an actor, he was in several movies, as well as True Blood, the show True Blood. He's very famously super into D&D, specifically Dragonlance, right? So Joe Manganiello used to get all his celebrity friends together in his house. He had this big table, and he'd play with
Yeah.
people like what's the guitarist from Rage Against the Machine?
Tom Morello.
Tom Morello, the tall comedian from Swingers. What's his name? God, man, I'm just blanking on the name.
Oh, yeah.
Him. And so all these celebrity friends of his that also play D&D, I think even Jack Black was there on one of his one shots or whatever, So he has a bunch of celebrity friends that play D&D that come to his house and they play. Joe Manganiello loves Dragonlance, and he wanted to make a Dragonlance show, and he got kind of backstabbed by Wizards of the Coast. Long story, he was really
Yeah.
upset with them. Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman, who created Dragonlance, also were going to be part of that show. They also got betrayed. But now it looks like they've extended an olive branch. So they brought Joe Manganiello up on stage. He's the one who presented Luke Gygax. He also brought on stage um, Tracy Hickman. Margaret Weiss wasn't there, but apparently she's also working with them to make a new Dragonlance setting for fifth
Yeah,
edition.
there's been rumors of that.
Well, now it's confirmed. So
Yeah.
Greyhawk Dragonlance, which is going to involve the original creators, Tracy Hickman, Margaret Weiss, and Joe Manganiello, who is a super fan. And the
Vince
last one,
Vaughn, I just came to me. Vince
Vince
Vaughn.
Vaughn. That's right. That's right.
And I think actually Vin Diesel's twin brother, also played D&D. But anyway,
Yeah. Well, Vin Diesel himself played
Vin
D&D
Diesel
with Critical
himself,
Role.
yeah.
Oh, he did a one shot. Anyway, so then they brought out. Then Joe Manganiello says he's working with the artist that did Dark Sun. I forget what his name is. To make some of his merch. It's called Death Saves, and yeah, he's going to be doing some of the Dark Sun art on Death Saves.
That's really
But the
cool.
biggest news is D&D finally announced they're releasing Dark Sun, and I think that's the most anticipated setting, at least online. I know that
Wow.
mainstream is not going to be huge into Dark Sun, especially with the slavery angle. I don't know if they're going to do the slavery angle, but online, like especially content creators have been like just clamoring for some Dark Sun.
Yeah.
So they said that they're going to do it, and then not just that, but they released a teaser video. I'll tell you about the teaser video in a minute, but I wanted to because I know you're a huge Dark Sun fan.
Obviously,
you ran
I
Dark
mean,
Sun when we
my
were kids.
campaign, my last
Yep.
campaign was freaking Dark Sun Ravenloft.
Dark Sun was one of
Wow.
my favorite settings. The way you
Yeah.
ran it was awesome. I loved when we were kids. I loved Dark Sun. It was one of my favorite settings of all time. It was so different. So I wanted to kind of pick your brain because you did not hear these news. You're hearing them right now for the first time. So what do
Yeah.
you think?
Man, first hearing it, it's exciting because man, finally, geez, what's it been like 20 something years? I mean, but then once you take it in, then you take a step back and it's like, but it's D&D, Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro. Is it going to be Dark Sunlight? I'm now like hesitant. I'm hoping. Now I'm going to look it up and see if there are any details. If not, I'll just patiently wait for the details to come out. But fingers crossed, they do it right. Because I mean, it's not hard to do it right, but they tiptoe around so many things to not offend certain people that like they end up half-assing it, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, my thoughts are the way fifth edition first. I have several different layers in this, right? So the first layer is the mechanics. I don't think fifth edition's mechanics are built for a setting like Dark Sun. Dark Sun is supposed to be brutal.
Brutal.
When you
Yeah.
ran your Darkest Sun campaign, which was Dark Sun and Ravenloft combined, you had to change some rules to make it a little bit more brutal. Fifth edition is notoriously it's like almost impossible to hurt the player characters or kill them. So I don't know how they're going to do it. They could change some rules and add some rules that are specific to the setting. It's not something they've done before, but there's nothing saying they can't do that, right? So potentially, yeah. But like you said, I think they've shied away from Dark Sun on purpose because they didn't know how to handle certain topics and how the new players who are not familiar with Dark Sun, how they would feel when they see the setting and just how brutal it is and how there are certain things about it that they might find offensive. I mean, excuse me. Just on the fact that the halflings are cannibals, people have problems when you say a certain race or what they call ancestries now have specific traits that they deem negative, right? So, like if orcs are brutal, new players don't like that. They don't like hearing that orcs are brutal by nature and that their culture is brutal. They see that as a racist thing. Halflings being cannibals, I think they will have that same reaction. slavery,
Yeah.
of course they're going to have a very visceral reaction to that.
How can
So
you have Dark Sun with no slavery? And
yeah, you can't.
I foresee them completely removing that aspect of it.
Hmm. And having it in there doesn't. It's not like they're saying slavery is good.
Yeah, it's not
Having it
glorifying
in
it in
there
any way.
is a negative thing. It's supposed to be like, damn, this is a very bad place
Yeah.
where people are just desperate and doing very bad things to each other just to survive. But they never see the like the context of things. Just if slavery's in there, it must be
It's
because you like slavery.
it's seeing it with the blinders on, because it's with they see it with the assumption of there's only certain groups that have been slaves when every group in history has been
Hmm.
enslaved at some point and still today are enslaved. And it's just a fact of human history. And
Hmm.
in a fantasy setting, I don't see anything wrong with it. I mean, you see Gladiator the movie,
Yeah,
it's a lot like that. People
yeah,
were taken in against their will and forced to fight, and you had that in Dark Sun. And it's a huge aspect. You had the arenas, you had the sorcerer kings, watching the gladiatorial games, and it's just such a huge part of Dark Sun that if they take that out, it's not Dark Sun.
yeah. I agree. I think that that would be a problem for a lot of people, especially newer players, the new type of players that they've attracted. Um, they tend to want a more soft, like happy-go-lucky type thing, and that's their prerogative. So the company's going to have a little trouble. I think. I mean, with this announcement, it seemed like they're really trying to re-invite back the old school. I don't think they're coming back. I think all those people went back to the OS or went to the OSR, went to newer games. I don't think they're coming back to D&D. They went Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast went too far, like one thing after another, after another, after another. And it's nice that they're trying to extend this olive branch and trying to bring in these things that would appeal to those players, but I think it's too little, too late. I think the only way those players come back, I think we've talked about in the past, is if a different company buys
Yeah.
Wizards of the Coast and then releases or D&D and releases these settings
And the thing
under new
is,
management and all that.
they've been sure trying to extend the olive branch, like you said, but it's like they're doing two steps forward, one step back. They're tiptoeing towards extending this olive branch. It's like,
Yeah. And in
like,
addition to the settings, they're bringing in all these people. They must have spent quite a bit of money to finally bring them back because the Gygaxes, the company itself,
yeah.
and the people working for Wizards of the Coast have nothing but backhanded slapped the Gygax family. And for them to
Hmm.
bring in Luke Gygax, they must have done some major apologizing to him.
Oh yeah.
But to bring him, Joe Manganiello, Margaret Weiss, Tracy Hickman, and also Ari Salvatore. So Ari Salvatore
Wow.
um, is redoing Dritz and apparently some stuff with Dritz in Forgotten Realms. So they're literally bringing everyone who's still alive who meant something to players way back in the 90s,
Right.
uh, bringing them back into the fold. And they think that's going to bring everybody back. So, like, they're really pulling out all the stops. And props to them for that. But again, I don't think it's going to bring those people back. It ain't going to bring me back. And I love those settings. I love Dragonlance. I love Dark Sun.
Yeah, it's like when we talked about creating a great villain or even just great memorable characters. You can dress it up real cool, give them a cool haircut, cool outfit, cool weapon. That doesn't make an interesting character. And here, yeah, you can bring in all the celebrities and all the greats, but it doesn't necessarily make a great product. In comics, it happens a lot. You bring back a lot of the great artists, and you don't necessarily get something that's great. Look at the controversy with the new Spider-Man 1000, the Amazing Spider-Man 1000,
What
where
is
they
it about
have,
that?
well, so Amazing Spider-Man is going to an issue number 1000, right? And of course, the big issues, they always have a million variants of the cover. So they're bringing all these artists that have ever meant anything to the Spider-Man
Mm.
comic series, except McFarlane. I don't know why they couldn't get
It's like one of
McFarlane.
the biggest ones.
Yeah, but they got John Romita to do the cover A, right? So it's like the main cover A,
Mhm.
John Romita. And like the cover that he drew, I don't know if they rushed him or whatever, but when he submitted the line art, they should have come back and said, can you tweak it a little? They just accepted it. I don't know if it's because he's a legend or whatever, but it's Spider-Man doing this. He's like this on the cover. And like for an issue 1000, I mean, huge milestone. You
Yeah,
want a
no.
cover that is like, man, I want this as a poster. I want to put this, as a sticker on my car. I want to wrap my car with this image.
Yeah.
But this image is like, and
Yeah, that is a weird, yeah.
so
Because
you can
like
bring back all the greats, but if
speaking
your
of
product is
McFarlane, that
still no
McFarlane
good,
Spider-Man cover that's classic that we had
yeah.
that issue unfortunately,
And
not
then
anymore.
there's what's
But
inside between the pages. Even
yeah.
if all the covers were great, sure, you'll sell a lot. But if nobody remembers what's happening between two covers, inside the pages, then what's the point?
Yeah.
So same with the D&D, like, yeah, you can bring back all these greats, and that's nice and all. However, it needs to be a good product in the end. Like you can
Mhm.
dress it up however you want, make it real nice, real cute, real cool, whatever. But if
Act
it's
happy,
not a
look
good
cute. Yep.
act happy,
So
if it's not a good product, then
Um,
that's
but yeah, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's too little, too late, and it's you can bring all these things to be like member berries. It's exactly that. It's member berries. Remember this? Remember, it's
yeah,
like when you make a movie that's just, and for example, Ready Player One. A bunch of people were like, "This book is so great," blah blah. I started reading it. I got through like chapter 4. The first chapter is jam packed. I mean, I swear this author was like going, what else can I throw in as a member berry? And he writes, John walked into this bedroom where he turned his Atari unit and put it in the drawer. He turned around and put on his Iron Maiden cassette into the cassette player. And so everyone who's reading this goes, I remember cassette players. Cool. Oh, I remember Atari. Oh, I remember this. I remember that.
yeah,
But like nothing at all in those chapters because everyone's like, oh my God, Ready Player One's such a great throwback to the 80s and 90s and whatever things we grew up with. It's just mentioning them. It's
yeah,
not a throwback. Like they're not mentioning it. They're just mentioning them. And so, like you said, it's no substance. It's exactly those things that you said. They bring all these authors. Oh, all these authors are doing it, but the story inside it's not throwing back
yeah,
any or bringing back any memories of stories from the Spider-Man from those days. Same with D&D. They can bring all these people, and now we could be wrong because they haven't come out the products, so we're making an assumption. But it's still the same designers that have been making D&D over the last 10 years. I mean,
yeah,
it's of course I know before people post in the comments, I know some of the designers have changed, and now the new lead designer is that one dude from Ghostfire game. I get it. I know that it's not the exact same designers, but it's the same mentality. Those designers all have the same way of thinking. And so that's what I mean by the same designers. So the trust in them putting out a product that is actually a throwback to those days of D&D, I don't think that trust is there. And I think that's why I'm
yeah,
saying they're gonna fail. Because like you said, all these are member berries. It's like Ready Player One. They're mentioning Dragonlance. Oh, R.A. Salvatore. I remember R.A. Salvatore and the Drit stories. Oh, I remember Dark Sun. But is there substance there? We don't know. We don't know. I don't have trust that there would be.
yeah, exactly.
So I said I was going to touch on the video. We're not going to play it because I don't want to get copyright struck. And when you live stream and play something that's copyrighted, sometimes they silence the video or they cut off the video and then we can't live stream, right? So I'll describe it. It's very cartoony.
Mm.
I was actually pretty shocked because they just played the video without telling anyone in this keynote. Like they finished talking to R.A. Salvatore, and then the screen goes black, and then it said, "Warning: This is going to be for mature audiences." And I'm like, "Mature
Mm.
audiences for fifth edition?" And then the first scene is like a cartoon of some guy getting his mouth like torn open and his head cut off, and it's brutal and bloody. And I'm like, "What the hell is this? This is D&D."
Mm.
And then and then immediately I start thinking, oh, this has got to be Dark Sun. I bet it's Dark Sun. And sure enough, they start like playing this video, and it's like a bunch of people in an arena or something killing each other, and it's very brutal. And then there's a female warrior holding her sword up on top of a hill or whatever. Um, it was brutal and bloody, definitely a plus. but the art did not make me think of Dark Sun.
Mm.
It felt like generic fantasy cartoon bordering on anime. It wasn't quite anime, so before you guys attack me, it wasn't quite anime, but it gave me that impression, like that feeling of like
Yeah.
that anime. In fact, the animators for this cartoon, it made me think of like, have you seen the Critical Role show on Amazon Prime?
Mm-mm.
You know it exists.
Yeah.
So it reminded me of that type of kind of animation, a little cartoony, whatever. And that's not the aesthetic I get when I played Dark Sun. From the artwork that we had when we were kids with those original books. The artwork was more very much Frazetta
Yeah.
with a slight. It was almost Frazetta, right? With a slight touch of like Mad Max and like
Yeah.
other stuff. But it was this kind of world, like very similar to Frazetta style art. Um, this was not it. This
Hmm.
cartoon was not that. It was like
Interesting.
cosplay, you know. It was just a
Interesting
regular
and
cartoon.
disappointing. Yeah. Because
Yeah, I when I saw it, I'm like, oh, Dark Sun, but then I'm like, that doesn't really look like Dark Sun at all. I don't know. It's weird. Um, very interesting.
yeah, that's something that I don't understand. Like the editors, the art directors for TTRPG supplements and things like that, even for comic books, man. Like sometimes, yeah, an artist could be good, could be great, but if it's just doesn't fit the style for the story, they could be the greatest artists. I mean, I it's just weird when those kinds of choices are made.
Yeah, it really is. All right, so with those news out of the way, let's go ahead and get to today's main topic, which is the deep dive into Left for the Vultures, which I'm very excited about because I designed this game. Gio jumped in and helped with a bunch of other stuff, other aspects of the game after he play tested with our group for the last couple of years. And the Kickstarter is going live in less than 2 weeks. So I'm very, very pumped, very excited, nervous, of course. But I wanted to share some of the stuff with you guys, give you guys an inside look into the game itself. So, what I'm going to share with you guys today is the work in progress. The book is almost done. There's some artwork that's going to be missing. You're going to see some kind of work in progress stuff on these pages, but these are the actual pages of the book. And as we go through them, you'll get to see some of them and how they're laid out, how the process of the design process and the layout process is. So this also kind of an inside scoop for those aspiring designers who have never used a program like InDesign to lay out a book. You can kind of see how that works and how that's done. I'll kind of give you some little mentions here and there of how some things are done. So with that, I'm going to begin sharing the document. And here we go. Can you see that?
Yes.
Cool. Let me see how I can make that the main screen layout. That's just you.
Mm.
That's just me. Oh, it'll jump back and forth for us.
Oh, okay, cool.
I mean, that's cool, right? Or should I
Yeah.
just do this?
I don't know. I like the little circle. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, little circles. That's fun. All right. So this is the cover for Left for the Vultures. The cover was drawn by hand from an artist that we've worked with for many projects. We started working with her in your Obsidian Chronicles, right?
Yep.
Her name is Yulia Grosu. She's from Romania, and really, really cool. She did a great job with this cover. She did a great job in Obsidian Chronicles, and she did
Yeah.
a great job with my other book, Hara Issues Landing. She drew a lot of stuff for me for Hara Issues Landing. So some of the little Easter eggs that she threw in here, she actually threw herself in as one of the dead people. She drew herself. I'm not going to show you which one it is. The other thing that's an Easter egg that's really cool. I sent her when I sent her the request for the artwork. I said, I kind of want to have a little nod to Ravenloft. I love the cover of Ravenloft, the original. Do you remember what that cover looked like to you?
Yeah. With Strahd on the edge. On the ledge with a gargoyle right next to him.
Yep, he was like on a balcony standing there,
Yeah,
but the color scheme was like
awesome cover.
it was very like gothic, like darker greens and grays, and then his red cape just really stood out, right? So I kind of wanted a nod to that. So she gave him a red cape to as a nod to that cover, and the color scheme is very similar because I wanted it to be slightly of a nod to Ravenloft cover, but also this castle right here. So Yulia lives in Romania, and everyone knows Transylvania is where Dracula lived, right? And Transylvania is in Romania. Well, she knows what the actual castle looks like of Vlad's actual castle from real life, the one who they call Dracula, Vlad the Cool. And this is an actual image, or she drew a replica of the actual castle that Castle Dracula is based on from Romania, which is really cool. It's an Easter egg that only you guys get to know who are watching the stream or watching these videos.
All two of you.
Yep. Oh, two of you. Well, people will watch it after.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so some really cool Easter eggs that Yulia threw in here. I wanted the cover to be brutal because that's what the game is. I wanted to show a person who was left for dead along with all these other bodies. He was thrown in with all these other bodies, but he rose because there was some unfinished business, and the vultures are circling, so they're getting ready to feed and feast on the bodies, but he's not ready to go yet. So he was left for the vultures. And then, as you see here, dark fantasy tabletop role playing game about losing everything and taking it back. So this guy, he picks up his sword. He can barely hold it. He can barely stand up straight, and he's just rising from the grave, basically, and facing into the distance where he has to go now and get some payback for what happened, whatever it was. So I think it perfectly shows what the game is all about.
It is a magnificent cover. I love this cover. It's so cool.
Yeah, she did a great job. So obviously, no AI, human made art, and AI would not throw these Easter eggs like drawing Yuli's face in
Yeah.
there. So for anyone who's calling anything AI slop here, absolutely not. Everything is human made. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into the actual game. So you'll notice here, I have some things that are not finished, the table of contents, but this is how it's going to look. It's going to be in dark mode, and all the chapters are going to be written in this way. So, chapter 1, baptized in fire. Baptized in fire is basically, when if you are familiar with the Catholic religion, when you're baptized, that means that you are reborn. Your sins are being washed away, right? But baptized in fire, a baptism of fire is something different. Is that your sins are not being washed away? Instead, you are bathing yourself in anger and fury. So the beginnings of your character is chapter 1, baptized in fire. And here, um, we talk about the game and how it goes. So I will be reading some excerpts from the book. You guys are getting a very deep dive in here into the actual book. So, and you'll notice when I hover over some of these things, the way InDesign works, these are boxes. I can actually move my text around and I can shrink the boxes and do all that kind of stuff. Um, However I want. Obviously, I don't want to mess anything up right now because it's almost all done. But that's how it works. And then you move some certain other things around, and you have to add elements such as like these little underlines. These are little lines, colored lines that I can just add on there. So it is work. It's a lot of work to make this, to do this, this kind of layout the way that I've done it. It takes a lot of like imagination. In fact, here, all these corners. So that red from the corner, these are all individual things I had to come up with to put on there. So
Yeah,
cool.
these are a lot of things that most people don't even think about when they buy a book.
Yeah,
Especially
work
a
goes into
book
these
like
books.
this, like these little frills and little things, tiny little things. Thought goes into every single little detail.
Mhm.
Like
The
these
color
don't just,
scheme, all of
yeah,
that,
yeah.
all of that has been thought out. So if you see something, it's not by mistake. It's not there by mistake. So anyway, so the introduction, Left for the Vultures, is an unforgiving dark fantasy role playing game where vengeance propels your journey through a world of ruin, horror, and moral decay. You and your friends forge tales of triumph and tragedy, facing unspeakable horrors and hard won victories. Every choice leaves a mark on the world your enemies, and in your soul. In the end, you'll reflect on the trials that shaped your characters. Have they emerged stronger or merely broken in new ways? And what and was the price of vengeance truly worth it? So what I've encompassed here in the introduction is exactly what this game is about. Basically, it's a dark fantasy role playing game. You go through to triumph, you go through tragedy. You're going to lose allies, you're going to lose other PCs, you might lose your character and have to make a new one, and then the new one that you make might suffer some major injuries and setbacks. In the end, as your characters are just propelling themselves into this journey of vengeance, they are being changed by the world and by the choices that they make. And eventually, when they finally finish their mission, if they survive, they you can look back at your character and how much they've been changed, and basically determine whether your character has become a better person or maybe they become the villain themselves. And that's the kind of
Yeah.
storytelling that I wanted to incorporate into Left for the Vultures is a journey of character, a character study for every single player. Each one of their individual characters is kind of a character study.
And those are the best types of characters. A character that grows and changes. And people know this deep down, even if they can't identify, even if they don't know anything about storytelling. It's a natural instinct that humans have for storytelling. And whether it's, a movie that they're watching or a story that they're hearing or a book, whatever, even in real life, that you need to have a evolution of the character, whether it's a devolution where they're going to become darker, maybe less of a person, less human than they started, or they're evolving into something greater. You need that character, that story arc, the hero's journey. And that's a lot of recent movies that have failed. It's because the writers haven't stuck to that. I mean, it's tried and true, and it's been around since the beginning of humanity.
Yeah, and that was my biggest problem with fifth edition and a few other role playing games that we played is your character doesn't really evolve. All they
Yeah,
do is they gain more abilities, they gain levels, and they get stronger, but they don't really change. You know, some campaigns I know again people are going to be posting in the comments, well, in my campaign our characters grow because blah blah blah.
yeah,
But that's not part of the game. And I can assure you, a majority of people do not play that way. Again, I've
yeah,
played with hundreds of players, fifth edition specifically, and a majority of people do not play the way that we're talking about. People do not
yeah,
have their characters change other than adding new abilities and stuff. Anyway, so the roles in the game, you have the Fate Binder, that's kind of your game master, and then you have the player characters, which in this game they're called revenants. Revenant is someone who has died and come back to life, right? But in this game, you don't necessarily have to have died. You just have to have lost everything. So you're who you were has died. So that's why I call them revenants. It's not that you necessarily died and came back to life, but the person that you once were is no longer who you are anymore. You've come back as someone else. You've come back as someone whose entire drive is just vengeance. And because you've lost everything already, you have nothing else to live for but to make those people pay who did whatever it was, who took everything from you.
yeah. We've
So,
talked about the bride from Kill Bill. You got John Wick. There's so many great revenge tales, revenge movies, and where the character just loses it all and then comes back a
yeah.
different person, hellbent on revenge. And that's the great thing about this game. It's the vengeance role playing game. There's no other one like it.
Yep. So, the about the game. So the theme of the game is basically or the setting of the game. I'm sorry, not the theme of the game. The setting of the game is this world that basically one day the sun stopped coming up. No one knows why. It just stopped rising, and it's enveloped in eternal darkness. The moon is basically the new sun. So the moon is what provides light, and it's a moonlight. So it's not the greatest kind of light, but it is when people kind of are around throughout and living their lives. And then they go to bed when the moon goes down. So now we call them, instead of sunrise and sunset, it's a moonrise and a moonset. And each day is called the moon because it's not daytime anymore. So each day is called the moon. And because everything is so dark, all these creatures and things that are horrible have come back and come out of the darkness. So whenever the moon goes down, these things emerge, and being outside becomes extremely, extremely dangerous. So in addition to you just being someone who is hell-bent on revenge, you have to deal with these horrors that are stalking the night. And the way it works is every town, every village, every city has a like a church with a bell, and it's rung 7 times when the moon is starting to go down, and it's called the ringing of the seventh bell. So the priests sound the seventh bell, warning everyone that it's time to go back indoors because the moon is going down and now the horrors are coming out. So when you hear that seventh ring of the bell, if you're still outside, you're going to be facing something horrible or meeting your fate. And then here I'm talking about the emergent storytelling. So I wanted the game to be uh, more fluid. I didn't want it to be so structured like fifth edition. During initial playtests and up until very recently, the way I was making the adventures was very much like Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like you helped write a few of them actually, and we
Yeah.
turn them into D&D adventures.
Yep. Yeah, and well, it's what I was used to, very, very structured story arc and everything. And yeah, after all the playtesting, it definitely evolved. It just called for more of a sandbox style um uh, adventure style, and the the events still occur. So in each adventure, generally, the events occur no matter what. And whether the players go to it and interact with it or fix it or whatever, or just ignore it, it's still going to happen, and the story just keeps moving. It doesn't wait for the players.
Yeah, I want it to feel like a living world, and every adventure module that we create for this game does have, like you said, we call it the clock. And those of you who have played Blades in the Dark, you're familiar with that kind of mechanic, where things are still happening, whether the players do something or not. It's going to happen, right? And then the players can interject and then affect the outcome of certain things. But in the end, these things are already on a trajectory, and so that's what I wanted with emergence, with regards to emergent storytelling. The way that the game works is everyone makes a character. You make a list of first who the main person who wronged you or group of people who wronged you. That's the first name on the list, or the first few names on the list. And then the next few names, you just make them and you work with your game master. And your game master gets to determine who those people are. They could be people who were also responsible, that you're also hunting down, but not in a major way like you are your number one on your list. Or they could be people who have information that will help you find this person or get closer to this person. Or it could be someone who can help you, or has something, an item or information that can help you uh, have better odds at defeating this person that you're hunting down. So the player gives the game master this list, and then the game master, again called the Fate Binder, kind of figures out who these people are and where they're located, and then hands it back to the player. And so now you have, let's say, 4 players at the table. You have 20 names, and then the players get to decide, okay, we've all met. You decide how you met, the backstories of how your characters came together and agreed to help each other on their vengeance quests. And then you say, okay, well, we can look at these lists of names, and this guy, John Smith, he is in this city called Ashau in Gahale. Let's go seek him out first. And so you all get together and go and seek this one name from this one player's list. And then when you go to that town, whatever's happening in that town or village happens. And if the person you're looking for is kidnapped or killed, or is in charge of some kind of local gang, now you have to deal with that. And so that's how the emergent storytelling happens. And then after you defeat them, maybe you find some information of now you have to go somewhere else or seek something else out. And so it kind of starts to span out into other branches of storytelling, and that's the intent of the game. This is what we mean by emergent storytelling. So motivations drive you into a certain place, and then from there you get information and you find out things that will help guide you and lead you into other directions. Or maybe while you're in that town seeking out this one list or this one name on your list, maybe someone else wrongs you and now you're out to get them too. And so you're adding another name to your list, and so now you have a whole bunch of other things to deal with. So this is how things kind of emerge in the game naturally.
Yeah, so to contrast this with other role playing games, for example, D&D, right? let's say an adventure where you're gonna hunt the Mad King. Normally, in a D&D style adventure, the players arrive at the town and the king's in his castle, and whether the players spend 3 days in town shopping and talking to everybody, and then decide to go raid the castle and go in the castle. Once they go in the castle, they start going through all the rooms in the castle. The king is set in that final room, room 26, and he's waiting there. As soon as the characters enter that room, then the final battle happens. These adventures for Left for the Vultures are not like that. In these adventures, on day 2, that king is leaving with a caravan of his elite guard to the next town over, and he's gonna burn whatever, the village witch. And it's gonna happen. If the players are still dilly-dallying, talking around, shopping for, a new sword or whatever, new leather boots, that king is now gone. When they go into the castle on day 3, he's not there anymore. And now everything's changed.
Yep, and that's the design intent for the game. So in the game, you make your characters, right? And like we say here, we really harp on this because we want to make sure people understand what type of game they're getting themselves into. So player characters are driven by personal motives, usually vengeance. It's rarely about treasure hunting. So I very specifically did not add any kind of currency in this game, and we'll kind of dive a little bit deeper into that in a bit. But I very specifically and purposefully made the game have no coins. There's coins as far as for roleplay value. They're called crows, but there's no actual currency that your character can earn or amass because I wanted to take that away from people. I didn't want them to be like, "Oh, I got to save up for this big armor that's really strong. I want to save up and save up." And so then they go on missions specifically to get paid or earn treasure or whatever so they can buy this armor. That cannot be the motivation of a character in this game. This is not that type of game. If that's the type of game you want to play, there's plenty of games that are like that. Not this one, right? So, um, here we talk about how the dice work. So, the rolls basically it's kind of like Delta Green. So I took this inspiration from Delta Green, where in that game, if you've ever played it, it's kind of a horror role playing game based very much on the Lovecraftian Cthulhu mythos, but it's more like it's kind of a mix of what's that show called? X Files. It's kind of like X Files, but meets Lovecraft, right? So you're government agent for this like secret government agency that nobody knows about, and you're hunting down horrors that are Lovecraftian, and you can't let the world find out the truth, right? So in Delta Green, you're mostly just role playing. You're playing out your character, how you built them. And if you're rolling dice, it's because things are starting to go wrong really fast. So I kind of took that from Delta Green. In Left for the Vultures, we do not have skills. We do not have social stats. You do that all through your character and role playing your character out. And then your fate binder determines the outcome of those conversations and interactions. There are a few checks that you can do from attributes, but it's not intended for that to be like an ongoing or regular thing. You can't go and persuade the guard unless you persuade them with something that you're actually saying and doing, right? There's no role. You can't, talk to the king and convince his wife to go to bed with you or things like that. Like that's not a thing in this game. If you're rolling dice, it's because things are going bad. You're either in combat, you're facing traps, or you're in some kind of danger, and that's when the dice come out.
Yeah, a great example of of what doesn't happen in this game is just last weekend on our game for Shadowrun. We have a player who literally every time he wants to do something, he asks the GM, "Can I roll a persuasion and what intuition check to see if this guy is gonna believe what I tell him, to see if he can get us the file for whatever software we need?" And that is really like, come on, man, just role play it and see if it happens. And it slows gameplay so much. And also, a lot of GMs don't like being uh, told how to GM, by players, and that happens quite a bit in games I've played, where the players
Yeah,
are like, "Can I just roll this to see if the NPC does this?" It's like, just say what you're going to do, and then the GM should be the one to determine whether you need to roll at all.
and what
Um,
to roll, yeah.
yeah,
But but I agree with you that it slows the game down and gamifying like social interactions. I don't know, it's just not my thing. It's not my thing, and so I didn't put it in my game. So then here's the big one, right? Critical damage rolls. So not all dice in the game do this, but dice in this game, specifically combat-based dice, use critical damage rules. And in this game, critical damage is exploding dice. We purposely didn't call them exploding dice in the book. Exploding dice is a known term in the industry. People who are familiar with role playing games are familiar with the term exploding dice, but there are no explosions in this game. So I didn't like using the term exploding dice because it just didn't fit thematically. And I know some veteran role players would are going to tell me, why don't you just call them exploding dice, because it will shorten the way you have to explain it every time, but again, it didn't fit thematically, and I didn't like putting that in there and calling them exploding dice. That's an industry standard. I didn't create that standard. It's not a hard written rule that you have to call them exploding dice. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to call them that, and it's called critical damage. So if you roll maximum on a die, you get to roll another die of the same type and then add the value to your maximum amount. And if you keep rolling the maximum, you keep rolling more dice. So if you roll a six-sided die and you roll a six, you keep that six, you roll another d6 and add the result to that six. So you can theoretically indefinitely keep rolling sixes and be doing a ton of damage. So the game becomes very brutal because of that. And it is a major aspect of how the game works, because I wanted things to have risk. I wanted every decision to have a risk, and the best way to do that is through those critical damage rules, because you never know. Even a D4, even a peasant with a dagger can potentially be a deadly encounter if he's rolling really high, and that's what I wanted from this game. So with that, combat, the way it works is basically in rounds, just like other role playing games. You go through rounds, but we do initiative in a different way, which we're going to get to. So that's kind of the introduction chapter. The next chapter that I wanted to go over is the character creation. So here, I mean, it's still kind of in the same chapter actually, but it's the next section of the chapter. So characters are created using a point buy system. So you basically start with 10 physical health, 10 mental health, 20 grit, and 3 vengeance. We'll discuss what all those are in just a moment. But then you get to buy anything you want. You can add more health, you can add more abilities, you can, buy a bunch of different things with these points that'll help improve your character, make them build the character that you actually want to play mechanically. Here's our character sheet. So your character sheet has your 4 attributes: ferocity, nimbleness, resilience, and composure. Ferocity is your, obviously how ferocious you are, how hard you hit. Nimbleness is how dexterous you are. Resilience is how much you can take in terms of uh, being in extreme weather, poison, things like that. And composure is like how well you handle stress and how well you handle social situations. So how composed you are, right? And then vengeance are a special set of dice. It's our meta currency, which is integral to the game. We'll get to that. Physical health, mental health, and your grit points. Grit points are basically like the currency that you use to use abilities in the middle of a combat. And then you have your weapons and all that stuff and your equipment. The second page of the character sheet is where you add your abilities. We call them masteries. So the way it works in this game is you learn disciplines, which are like, for example, a certain school of magic in certain games, right? That's a discipline. And then the spells within that school, those are your masteries. So you can be, theoretically, let's say we had a discipline called illusion. You can learn illusion, but you still don't know how to do anything with illusion until you learn a mastery within that illusion category. So that's how that works. So when you make a character, the most important thing that you want to ask is, who are you and why are you still here? Why did you come back? Number one most important thing, because that's going to determine who your character is, who betrayed them, what their motivations are, all that stuff. So that's why I put that as number one right here. Then you get to pick your breed, which is in some games called race or ancestry or species. In D&D, they're called species, I think now. Which
It's
is
kind
to
of
me it
weird to
feels sci-fi.
it sounds so sci-fi to call them species. Yeah, it's like, the 90s movie Species kind of tagged that term to freaking sci-fi and aliens and whatever, but
I think even
it's
beyond that film, I mean, for me, I feel like it's just that species just is such a like scientific term that it automatically aligns itself with something
it's
sci-fi.
yeah, sci-fi and stuff. It's true.
Yeah, because
Breed
like
is
even
good.
ancestry, I prefer over
Yeah,
species.
Ancestry. Yeah,
But in this game, it's a brutal game, and people kind of don't respect each other. So when you call someone a breed, it's almost like you're like looking down on them.
yeah,
Like, look at this person's breed, you know. It's
yeah.
and I wanted that, and some people have told me they have a problem with that word, but yeah,
Why? What?
it is what it is. We have a twice blooded. I actually initially was called the half breed. That one I did change. I
Oh
did
yeah, I
change that one
remember you got some
because it was a
flack
close
for
friend of
half
mine
breed.
who told me he didn't like that, and so I respected that from him. But the truth is, it would have been cool to call them half breeds. Because
Yeah,
again,
in a
it just
brutal
feels
world.
like
Yeah, that's like a derogatory towards them, and
it's intended to be derogatory,
right.
and that's the whole
Yeah.
point. but he's a friend of mine, so he told me he didn't like that, so I changed it to twice blooded. Um, so you choose your breed, you choose your size, you distribute your ashes, which we just discussed is the points that you use to buy abilities, and then you choose your equipment. So here are your breeds. Now, in this book, I'm going to reveal all the breeds that are in the book. So those of you who are backing the Kickstarter can see. I mean, you'll know the names in the Kickstarter page, but here you get to get a little bit of a glimpse into each breed and the images. So Ashenborn. So these people, they're born inside this thing called the despair. In the world, in addition to the sun never having come up, there's this cloud, this dark cloud of ash and dust that kind of floats around the world. No one knows what it is. It was inspired. Like what inspired me was, you remember the never ending story,
The what was it
the
called?
nothing.
Yeah,
The nothing kind of
nothing.
just is consuming the world, and it's just this blackness, right? I used that same trope in my 5e adventure horror Isuzu Landing, right? In that book it ended up being called El Cuco, but here it's called um, the despair. No one knows what it is. It just floats around the world and lingers, right? And anyone who's caught within that is aged rapidly. Well, sometimes they're either aged rapidly, they go insane. And if someone is born while it's lingering in their village, they become what's called Ashenborn. So they're born with no color. Think of like a black and white film. That's kind of how they look, just like someone from a black and white film. Even their blood is kind of like grayish tone. So by being Ashenborn, people are kind of suspicious of them because they're weird. No one knows like why they look that way when they're born into despair. Um, but they're also resistant and resilient to madness. They have kind of an affinity towards alchemy and stuff as well, which is no one knows why. Then there's the changeling, and it's not your 5e changelings. In 5e, changelings are just people who can shape change, which is kind of weird.
Yeah,
But what's funny is that a bunch of people I talk to, they're like, "Oh yeah, changeling. Oh, you can change shapes." Like it's become a thing that's what a changeling is now, which it's never been in, as far as I know.
it's weird how things change. Like for example, my son, he's like, oh, something something about a mimic, and I'm like, oh, you know what mimics are? He's like, who doesn't? And he's 12, and then so he starts talking about like apparently mimics in modern like society, whatever, with the kids. It's somebody who mimics a person and like knocks on your door and says, come on out" in their voice, and it's not them, but that's all they do. Like they try to lure you out or something. And I'm like, okay, well, the mimic from D&D was like a treasure chest that had teeth and, like, or any other piece of furniture or whatever, something that looked like something else, like an item that your thief is going to try to take, and then it bites them. But yeah, to these kids, like mimic is something completely different.
Yeah. So changelings in actual lore, for those of you who are not aware, um, and sorry to mansplain to those who are aware, but a changeling, I think it started in like Celtic lore or maybe even Scottish lore, where a witch or a hag would steal your baby and leave in its place another child that was sickly and like wrong somehow, right? Like something about it was off. And some said that changelings ate raw meat and things like that. Like they were just really weird because they were left by hags. And when they grew up to become adults, like there was something dark within them. They would turn into like killers or whatever, you know? So, and sometimes the changeling would just die just from being sickly and whatever. So that's what a changeling actually is in my game. It's a creature. It's actually born from a cauldron. The hag or witch takes the child, puts it in the cauldron, and I'll explain briefly what the lore is in the game regarding cauldrons and hags. But they sacrifice the life to a demon that they worship, and then out of the cauldron is kind of in the game. It's like symbolic as mockery of a womb, of a woman's womb. So out of this cauldron comes out another baby, born from the demons and born from the womb of the demons, and then they're put in the place of the baby, and then they're raised. And those who are raised, they grow up, but everyone kind of knows that they are a changeling. They are someone who was created by a hag. Now they're not killed once they're taken care of by the parents or whatever, because it's still a life, right? So people don't like kill them or persecute them, but they are suspicious of them, and some of them go off to live in swamps and things like that. But just to kind of touch on the lore a little bit more, so in this game all demons are female, and so these hags, they worship demons. Some of the demons have names, like the bone broth saint is one of the demons, and they all give hags their power, and they require sacrifice and rituals. And these demons have no form, so it's not like in D&D where you can fight demons or whatever they come to. A player character can just face a demon and kill it. In this game you cannot fight a demon. It is living in another realm. It is kind of a more of, it's not even living in another realm. It's more like a what's the word I'm looking for, Gio? Presence. It's more like a presence, right? And but this presence that's a demon longs for flesh because it can never have it. It doesn't have a physical form, but it longs for it. So it demands um, sacrifice of flesh, and they can possess beings temporarily so they can get a feel for the pleasures and pain of flesh. But at the same time they also long for the because they're female, they long for the gift of being able to give birth, and they can't, right? So they make a mockery of it, and they have these hags create these cauldrons, which then symbolize the evil side of the womb. And then that's where they use these cauldrons as this twisted womb, this profane mockery of the beauty of childbirth, and they kind of bastardize it and give birth to the changelings. So that is the lore of changelings. For those of you who wanted an inside scoop on what the changelings are in this game, it's extremely dark. I know it's very disturbing. I know, but the game is meant to be dark and disturbing. So, what do you think about the changeling lore deal?
I love it. I mean, this is the kind of thing that uh, makes a great horror stories. Where you don't hold back. I mean, when you tiptoe around the the horrific aspects of something like this, and you kind of like smooth over it or just say, oh, yeah, they're switched at birth by a witch, and you don't get into the details of it. It's like it can become cartoonish. It gives uh, people kind of free reign to make kind of a cartoon out of it. And I think that's what happened with a lot of the things that were horrific in D&D, like the gelatinous cube.
Yeah, we talked about that last week. Um, so the next breed that we're going to talk about is the cold blood. So the cold bloods are reptilian. They have a reptilian taint in their body. Now, what is one of the big parts of the lore in the game? The sun never came up, right? So What do reptiles need? They're cold blooded. They need warmth. There's no sun to warm them, right? So cold bloods are an ancient race. When the sun stopped coming up, they saw their demise coming. And cold bloods are actually the ones that they ruled the land for a long time. It was called the Age of Chains, and they enslaved the elves. Then the elves, they have this hero called Morthel. He broke free, and basically he was kind of an elven hero from ancient times who freed the elves and the other humanoids, and they eventually overthrew their lords, the cold bloods, and formed their own civilization, which now is run by the humans, right? But the cold bloods, they formed an alliance, or they kind of made a pact with the other humanoids and said, please do not destroy us all, leave our temples. And so they have 9 temples across the land, and they're called the Nine. And these temples, when the eternal night happened, these temples are the source of warmth in the land. If it wasn't for these temples, the entire world would turn into a cold wasteland, and even the humans and humanoids would have trouble surviving in that. So the cold bloods are actually keeping everyone safe in a way with these 9 temples. But because
Mm.
they're an ancient race, they also think differently. They think almost alien like, and think of them kind of like the Yuan-Ti in 5e. They have like kind of a dark motivation behind them. People don't fully understand what their end goal is for certain things. Um, but for now, it is those temples. A lot of these cold bloods, they visit those temples. Kind of, they do. Um, what do they call that when you go from one religious site to another?
Pilgrimage.
Yeah, they do pilgrimages to the Nine, and they learn about their heritage and their ancient temples. But that's what's keeping the place still warm in the areas that are warm. Are these 9 temples? And the inspiration for these temples, for me, my wife is Baha'i, and so if you've never heard of the religion Baha'i, it's a faith from the Middle East. It kind of encompasses the different prophets of different religions and brings in science and religion together. It's a really cool and all-encompassing religion, but they are persecuted in Iran, which is where the religion started. And because they're persecuted, they kind of spread across the rest of the world. But they have 8 temples across the world, and they're all beautiful. They're all different. Like the architecture of each one is amazing. There is one in Panama actually, where Gio and I are from.
It's a
There,
really
it's
cool
on
place. Yeah,
Yeah, it's on
it's
top of like this hill. It overviews the city. It's beautiful. There's I think 2 temples. There's in the U.S. There's one in Chicago and one somewhere else. There's one in like Peru. There are basically 8 temples across the world for the Baha'i, and any religion is welcome to go in and pray. So that's what inspired me for the cold blood, the Temple of the Nine. Next breed is the Black Vein. These are different than changelings. Changelings are born from the womb of the demon, right? So they're born from the cauldron. Blackvein just happen to have a demonic taint in their blood. Their heritage, their bloodline comes from some demonic taint, but no one knows how that came to be. It's just ancient. It's just passed down generation to generation. Some Blackvein are um are so, like, their blood is so strong, the blood inside of them is so strong that it actually poisons them almost like a toxin, and they lose their mind and go crazy and begin to kill people. So, and they're called demon bloods. That's one of the creature types or creatures stat blocks that we put in the main book. So it's almost like they're poisoned by their own blood, by the demonic taint within their blood, and the demonic um, influence kind of overtakes them. It's too overwhelming for them. Then we have the elves. Elves are different than typical elves in other games. So the elves are mostly like dark elves because they're dark skinned, white hair, white or gray hair. Their skin can be pale, like gray, but most of them are light gray or jet black skin. Almost all of them have gray, silver, or white hair. So they're kind of like dark elves, right? They're the only breed that can see in the dark, and they're the ones who are responsible for freeing the humanoid races from the cold bloods. The elven hero Morthel freed everybody. But there's with the lore, when you guys get the world book, you'll learn more about Morthel. There's some mystery regarding how he was able to free the slaves. Like some people think he turned to dark sources for magic, and that's how he was able to overpower his captors. So there is some kind of mystery surrounding that. Then the only small race, I mean, any breed in the game can be little, but by default, Gremlin are the kind of little race. And I know it's one of your favorite ones, Gio.
Yeah, I just love probability manipulation, dice manipulation. So the gremlins have the luck, uh, and I like that all the breeds in this game tie to real life lore for each of these creatures. Like you did with the changeling and then the gremlins, because traditionally the gremlins, it's a relatively new creature of lore in from Germany during the World War, the
World
Great
War II.
Great War, and World War II, where any failure of your airplane or any other kind of machinery um, was blamed on the gremlin going in, some creature called the gremlin going in and screwing around with all the circuitry or with the gears or whatever, anything mechanical or electronic, and causing chaos. And a really great gremlin story is from the Twilight Zone movie
Oh, it's so good.
with actually the original in black and white from the show was really good too. But the one with William Shatner in the movie was awesome. There's a man on the plane.
On the plane. I loved it.
Yeah,
Dude, that story was one of my favorite Twilight Zone episodes.
yeah. So gremlins in real life are tied to luck and bad luck and stuff. And um, the Gremlins movies were kind of stuck to that a little bit. Um, Bad luck and causing chaos, but yeah, in this game, it's really well done with the dice
Yeah, it's like the
manipulation.
opposite of a halfling who have good luck, right? Here we don't have halflings in this game, but in other games you have halflings that are good luck. Gremlin is just the opposite of them. Then we have twice blooded. These are the ones that we are talking about that I used to call half breeds. They're just two breeds combined, basically one parent from each breed. Then you have humans, which is the most prevalent common race in the land. Not much to say about the humans, right? Orcs. We respect the orc in this game. I ran an ad campaign talking about how we respect the orc. And yeah, I feel like other games, specifically fifth edition, have lost respect for the orc. I mean, they've turned them into happy go lucky,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
just another human, but with a costume on. All the races. Oh, sorry,
All of
excuse
them.
me.
Yeah,
All
they've
the species
Shrekified
in
everything.
fifth edition. Yeah, all of them are just humans in a costume. They have
Yeah,
no. They really don't have like different societies that are way different or alien to humans. Like they're just humans with a costume on, and I didn't want that.
which is just, gosh, it's just so dumb. To try to appease certain ideologies, because, like, man, anything you see in nature, you see dolphins, for example. Dolphins are so different than killer whales, and they're from killer whales are not a whale, they're from the dolphin family, and they are so different, they act so different. um and you can't say that, oh, that one is just, it's an individual. Yes, there's individuality, but there are certain traits that are specific to each one, to each species, um, that makes them what they are. That makes them an orca, or that makes them a dolphin. Blue nose dolphin, or whatever the heck they are. Um, and that's just reality, man. Sorry, but it is.
Yep. So we respect the orc here. They have their own tribes. They have like shamanic kind of societies. Very much about war and war tribes and having like witches and shamans, however you want to pronounce it, kind of do their magic for them and boost them in battle and things like that. They're very warlike breed. And then the final breed is the unborn. So unborn are a combination. It's basically anything that was once living and is now living again, but different, right? So like undead, you could be undead basically, or you don't necessarily have to be undead. You could be a creation of alchemy. You
Yeah,
could be like a
construct, or
Frankenstein's monster, a
yeah,
construct. Yep. Now, I do plan, so you'll notice, right? There are 10 breeds, one here, two on each page, and then one at the very end here, right? There's space here. So why did I do that? Well, the plan is if we hit a certain stretch goal, I do have one more breed that I've been working on that I was going to put out in a future product, but I'm willing to add it to the main book if we hit the stretch goal for Kickstarter. And you didn't know about this because I haven't told you about this. I've kept this kind of a secret. Um, and they're called Vitrians. Can you take a wild guess of what they are?
Mm. Vitrients?
Hmm.
Oh man, I don't know. Like,
Vitrians are alchemical people who have modified their own through alchemical means. So
oh,
unlike Unborn, let's say a Frankenstein's monster Unborn who was created through either magic
right.
or alchemy, Vitrians are still living. They weren't like parts of humans put together and brought to life. They are living, but they are a special breed of humans who have modified themselves through alchemical means. So
Very
I thought that would
cool.
be
All
pretty cool.
right.
I'm
Yeah.
still working on lore and stuff, but yeah, if we do hit stretch goals, I will work really hard on these. But if not, it'll get put on the back burner and it will come out eventually in a future expansion. But
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we hit the stretch goals and I can add the Vitrians right in here. So
Yeah, that'll
once
be
you
cool.
pick a breed, you get to make the rest of your character. Now, when we go here to the character creation, you choose your size, which there are 4 sizes: little, average, big, and in parentheses tall, or big parentheses wide. So you could be really tall or really wide or average, or you could be little, right? And any breed can be that. And the reason I did that is because just like in real life, you have little people, right? I mean, there are little people and there are freaking gigantic people like Shaq, right?
Yeah.
So why not have a range of that for almost every breed? The only breed that doesn't have that big of a range is the gremlin. The gremlin can only be little or average. They cannot be big, which makes sense.
Yeah.
It'd be weird to have a really massive gremlin.
It'd be really weird.
That would be like more monstrous. Like a gremlin is they're crazy, ugly, whatever, monstrous, but because they're little, they're not as threatening. But imagine a massive gremlin that's just like so
That's
that's why I
awesome.
didn't allow them to be big. But also they're really strong, like they have some cool abilities. So I kind of made up for the fact that you don't have as much choice in size. I made up for it by giving them some really cool abilities. Then so I was saying that the character creation involves a point buy system. Now not everyone likes doing point buy. A lot of people, they get confused, they get overwhelmed, or they just don't want to go through the trouble of just spending every point of ashes. And so I've solved for that by creating archetypes. Now these are not character classes because this game does not use character classes, but they represent kind of a broad spectrum of character types that you can at least get your character motif started with, and then you can kind of customize them as you go. So I've created a few archetypes. I'm not going to go through them in detail, but the Bloodhand, the Butcher, Death Fetcher, Firemark, Dread Knight, the Ghost Between Blades, Gravebinder, Mad Alchemist. There's 12 of them. Vessel, War's Remnant, and the Worm Tongued. So there's a wide range. There's like, assassins and like the Ghost Between Blades is like someone who likes to move around in the battlefield. Worm Tongued obviously is someone who uses magic to influence the minds of others and that kind of stuff. So some really cool archetypes. I mean, you can make your own character from scratch using your ashes and customizing them that way. But you can't go wrong by just choosing an archetype and getting started pretty quick. And in our online character builder, we do have every archetype uploaded on there, so you can just pick the archetype you want through our online character builder and go from there. So this is more detail on creating a character, what all your attributes start at. I'm not going to go too into detail for that. What the costs are for ashes when you're buying stats and all that stuff. So here's where we go into really deep detail into character creation, and when you get the book, you'll be able to see all that stuff with a little bit more detail.
Yeah, and we have a video of where I created a character that we are going to run on a on a
Next
one
week,
shot for a future video. But yeah, we did a video where I created the character, so you can see how we use the character creator, the online character creator software, and how we created this character. And it's very quick, but it's really fun. It's fun to create new characters because there's just such a wide range. You end up with such a unique character. You could have two characters where everything's the same except for one thing, but what makes your character is, again, not all the dress up, but the story of the character. So
Yep. Sorry, my wife is texting me that she wants to feed the dog, so she might kind of come in here just to feed one. We feed one of the dogs in my office because he's had some health issues, and we want him separate from the other dog so he doesn't, so they don't kind of get in each other's way. Um, but yeah, I love the way the website character creator is built. Our friend Nick Bacon helped build the website. We've since modified some of the aesthetics and things like that, and updated with some of the newer, updated mechanics and stuff. But yeah, props to him. If you need help getting a website built, definitely um, reach out to Nick Bacon. I'll put his information in the video description after the live stream. So if anyone wants to reach out to him for that. All right, so next we're going to talk about character advancement. So characters advancement works exactly the same way as character creation. You earn ashes. So when you make a character, you start with 400 ashes, and then you spend them to buy abilities and stats and all that. Well, as you go through the game, you gain more ashes, which then you can spend at any time to buy more stuff, like more hit point, more physical health, more mental health, more points in your attributes, and all that stuff. So kind of works the same way as character creation. Just you keep adding more stuff to your character. Then we go into the next chapter, which is the combat chapter. This piece of art is not quite done yet, so that's why it's a little bit blurry. She's pretty cool, I think. What do you think, Joe?
yeah, it looks great. I
There's
love it.
these
But
lines are too fine. I got to fix these. The piece of cloth that's covering her butt here. You see, there's not enough detail yet, so I got to work
yeah,
on that. But I just put it in here as a placeholder because I'm still working on the book. So I just put what I had done so far, and I'll be fixing a few more details. I'll detail it a little bit more. So when you see the final piece, it'll be a little bit more detailed and cleaned up. I'll fix some of the things like this armband is a little off. But yeah, that's that's just a little bit into the process of the making of the art in this game. And I will be making a video of myself drawing on a tablet, so you can see that the art is human made. All of the art is human made by me and
and yeah,
PA.
there's contrary to what some have claimed, there's no such thing as a charcoal filter for pictures or AI or anything like that. There's no charcoal filter. This is all charcoal style digital art.
Yeah, you can try and have AI make you a charcoal piece of art, but it will look like someone trying to make art look like charcoal with
Yeah,
ink. This is not something AI can replicate, really.
yeah.
So any of those people who have already accused me of AI, good luck trying to figure out how that's happening then, if it's not real. Anyway, so how combat works in the game. This is kind of the nitty gritty here. It's each round in combat works just like rounds in most other role playing tabletop role playing fantasy games. Um, Everyone takes a turn, back and forth, and then the next round begins. Right. So we have a 20 point initiative system. So it starts at 20 and it descends. Whoever has 20 goes first, and you go down from there. What's cool is player characters. Let me go back here. Um, Player characters get to choose their initiative. So they don't have uh, dice that they roll for initiative or initiative modifiers. Every single character has 5 different initiative values: number 1, 5, 10, 15, and 20. And then every round they pick one of those and they check it off their character sheet. So if round one I want to go, faster than almost everybody else, I'll pick 20 and I'll check that off and I'll go first. Next round, I have to pick from these other 4. I cannot pick 20 again. So now I have to make a tactical decision. Do I want to go on 1 and be last, or do I want to go in the middle? So this helps you kind of work with your group and your party to make up tactical decisions that are going to impact how the combat's going to play out. And that's only for players. NPCs do not have that. NPCs have set initiative values that are set based on their stat block. This light's really making me sweat. um, but that's how that works. So each player starts initiative from 1 through 20, and then 20 goes first, and so on and so forth in descending order. And then once you've used all 5 values, then it resets, and that's called an initiative cycle. And then you can start picking from your list again from any number on your list. I know the initiative system is one of your favorite things. It is one of the things that I have gotten the most positive feedback on for this game
Yeah.
during playtest. Tell us more
It's
about it,
very
Jim.
different from any other game I've played, and it's really cool. It definitely makes it so tactical. It's awesome because no more, sitting around waiting for your turn and like you rolled a 1 or whatever, and then every freaking combat round you just got to sit there and wait for everybody, and then you plan, and while you're sitting there waiting for the fighter for the 20 turns, finally when you're up, what you had planned to do is done, and you got to switch it up at the last minute what you want to do, and then you don't know what you want to do, and it slows everybody down. With this initiative system, it's so different because it moves very quickly. It's tactical. You plan, oh shoot, you know what, the fighter just did this round, so next round I'm gonna go first so that I can play off of his move, or I'm gonna go last and let whatever, the other guy, the elf, do this. So it makes it so different than other games because a lot of times with other games where you have a static initiative value after rolling or whatever, you kind of just sit there and wait for your turn, and a lot of times you tune out. You start playing with your phone, and then you like when they call you, hey, you're up, you're like, oh, what just happened, who did what? With this, it makes you a lot more active in the combat as a whole.
Yeah, because you constantly have to be thinking ahead,
Yeah,
you
you're
know?
fully invested. Yeah.
Yep. Like, oh man, if I use this, then next round, you need to plan ahead, like several moves ahead in order to be pick the optimal initiative value that you want. So then the other thing that's kind of part of the combat system is that everyone just gets one action. So you can attack, you can guard, you can move, or you can go stealthy, or you can use other special actions that you get through some masteries, like the alchemy action or magic action. But regardless, you get one action. Now, there are some masteries that will grant you more than one, or will let you compress actions and do a couple things with your one action. But for the most part, most characters just get the one action. So that's what also makes combat move very quickly. When you're when you're in combat, I mean, in my experience, through the dozens of playtest sessions that we've done, um, combat moves super fast. I mean, everyone thinks, oh well, every round you got to pick different initiatives for several players, and in theory, it sounds really slow, right?
Yeah.
And even people that I've mentioned the game mechanics to, it's funny how some of these things work like that. Like on paper, they seem like they're going to work one way, but in practice, they don't work that way at all. Like
Yeah.
initiative goes so fast. You top of the round, the Fate Binder goes, all right, what are your initiative values? Geo, 10. Nick, 7 or 5. Matt, 1. And then you just write those down. And it just took 15 seconds. And then everybody goes in order. And then next round. It is way fast. It goes in a blink of an eye, especially because everyone just gets the one action. Rounds come and go.
Yeah.
And you'll go through a 5-round initiative cycle, maybe in 10 minutes at the
Yeah,
most.
and the fact that everybody is paying more close attention to what's going on during the combat helps speed things up too. Whatever 15 seconds it's going to take to jot down everybody's initiative value each round is offset by everyone paying attention and being ready when their turn is up.
Yep. So and that definitely helps keep things moving fast too. So in our experience, and this is a group, it's some people might say, well, your playtest group is a group who's used to this game and how this game works, and that's why they're doing it. That no, we play many systems, and trust me, when we play, let's say, fifth edition D&D, right? The rounds go exactly as they do with everybody else who plays fifth edition D&D. One person's turn takes 20 minutes because they got to decide what they're going to do. They got to look over the character sheet and all their abilities, look at the battlefield and try to assess that, and then use their 3 actions and then do this, do this, do this.
Yeah.
And then the other character goes, oh, do I have a reaction for that? Do I have a response for that? And then someone else triggers something. And one round takes 20 minutes in 5th edition. And
Yeah,
this is
in many
universal.
games it does. Look at Shadowrun last weekend we played.
Oh my
It was
God,
literally half a combat. The entire 4-hour session. We
was
each
2
went
rounds.
twice, I think. Yeah,
Yeah, it was 3 hours and we played 2 rounds.
2 rounds.
Mhm.
And I mean, holy cow, 4 hours to play 2 rounds. It's crazy.
That's
And
insane.
that was Shadowrun. And this game, man, it moves so quick.
Yep.
And again, it's not just because it's our group. We had independent playtesters. We had the
Yep.
playtest. People could download the book, the playtest book, and adventure, and send us feedback. And
Yeah.
most of the feedback was about the initiative system, positive feedback.
And I've had people reply, "Oh, this sounds like it's going to be really slow or whatever." Or, yeah, this is really slow. Well, you've never played it. I know you haven't played it. If you say that the way the initiative system is and all that stuff, that rounds are going to take forever, you clearly have not played the game. You're just making an assumption because on paper it looks like it. I don't blame them. On paper it looks like it's going to take long, but
Yeah.
it doesn't. It really doesn't. In practice, it's one of those. In practice, it plays a lot different than you would think.
We tried several different initiative systems. I remember.
Yeah, we did.
Well, and when you came up with this, I was like, "Oh my God, it's ingenious!"
Yeah, yeah. I remember. I was brainstorming for days, dude, trying to come up with an initiative system because that was super important. I mean, it determines how the game plays out.
Yeah.
So then in combat, you have several actions. We talked about attack, move, hide, or stealth action. But there are others like alchemy. So like you can learn disciplines and masteries that teach you the alchemy action. And these are special actions that will have things that kind of linger through each round. Bolster action is like if you have a leadership type of mastery. Magic, obviously. The magic is very dangerous in this game. We'll talk about that in a minute. Moving, stealth, all that stuff. And then so the way the rounds go, you basically um, you go through different steps, right? Step 1 is damage threshold for massive creatures. It's very rare. And then other incantations, we'll talk about that in a minute. And then you apply other effects like bolster and linger. And then step 3, burning condition and poison condition take effect. And then people choose their initiative value. And then the round is over, and then you start the whole process again. It looks a little bit more complicated. When you read through it, you will understand a little bit more, and you'll see that it's actually pretty smooth. And then we have some additional. Here's some of those things I was telling you about. I don't have an image here yet, but I know what I'm going to draw. So we're waiting for that art to be done to apply it to the book. But yeah, we have other rules like range attacks and then flanking. Flanking is very important because it is a tactical game. Flanking could be extremely beneficial for groups. You can do a ton of damage if you do it properly. So definitely something to look into. Grappling, I don't like grappling so much. So in this game, it's kind of not really super beneficial for the grappler. It definitely can hinder the person that's being grappled. So it's kind of a trade-off. And that's one of the design principles here. Almost everything that you do that's a big benefit has some kind of a cost, and that is intentional. Stealth and hiding, and then attribute checks. Attribute checks are not very common, and like we were talking about earlier, this game is not intended to be the type of game where social interactions are gamified. Everything in terms of that has to be role played, and not everything, but of course there'll be exceptions, but for the most part. And now we talk about one of my favorite things of this game, and that is vengeance. So,
well, it's what the game is about.
Mm-hmm.
That's the whole concept.
Yep. So, because your character is a revenant and they came back because of someone took everything from them, they already start with some vengeance. Everybody starts with 3. You can gain more through masteries, but you also gain them through defeats. So, vengeance is one of the most powerful tools you have as a character. Basically, it's a meta currency. It's a D4. So you start with 3 D4s. And when you expend a vengeance die, you roll D4, which does have critical damage rules. So they explode. And you can use them for just about anything. You can apply it to damage. You can heal with the D4. And if you roll a 4, you roll some more D4s until you stop rolling 4s and you heal that much. Same with damage. You can add D4 damage. If you roll a 4, you keep rolling. And so it can really impact a round or a combat. In addition to that, you can expend a die. Instead of rolling it, you just expend it and move an additional 30 feet on your round. That is, mobility is super helpful in this game because everyone just has the one action. You can also expend it to remove a condition, also super beneficial. There are some conditions that can really cripple you, and expending a vengeance die just completely removes the condition. And the fantasy for this is basically just like in those movies that you mentioned earlier, Kill Bill and John Wick and all those vengeance films. Man, these characters, they go through things that you would think would kill a normal person, right? In Kill Bill, the bride in the very beginning, sorry to spoil it for whoever hasn't seen the movie, she is basically killed, but she comes back and she makes a list and she comes back with a vengeance. And when she goes to exert her retribution on these people, some of them are ready for her and they really fuck her up, right? And you think she's done for, you think she's dead, but then she keeps coming back stronger than before, right? Same with John Wick. They think they've killed him and he just comes back angrier and stronger. And that's what these vengeance dice represent, is those moments where you think the hero is dead, but now they come back one more time with even more fury to enact their revenge on their enemies or their targets.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's like you know, like Crank, right?
Oh
Crank
yeah, the
with
movie
Jason
Crank. Yeah,
Statham,
yeah.
where he's like, they hit him with sedatives and like tranquilizers, and he's just
Electricity.
pushes, yeah, electricity, and just keeps pushing. It's a really cool mechanic because it brings that cinematic feel that you are going for, and especially in vengeance style movies and revenge stories, where I can just picture somebody like the Hulk or Bruce Banner. They shoot him with the big tranquilizers, and you know they hit him with enough of a dose to kill a freaking elephant, and stumbles, falls, and then they shoot him with another one, but then he puts a knee up and then stands up and just keeps like pushing through slowly, uh pushes through it, just to go after this person that has ticked him off so bad. It's really cool. It's really cool how that works.
Yeah, and in the game mechanically, it makes a huge impact. These vengeance dice are super powerful because it doesn't seem like much at first glance. Oh, D4, because you think about other games where you have a meta currency like D&D, you have inspiration. No one, people forget they have it. No one uses it. you know, it gives you advantage on a roll, whatever, right? I think 5.5 did inspiration. It's slightly different, but in the end, it still works almost the same way. Pathfinder has hero points.
Yeah, and
Hero.
inspiration is something like, it's nice to have, but but with this, because these dice explode too, it can be a huge difference for your character, and it could be a huge moment in the entire campaign, you know
Yeah,
so
yeah. So, for example, or Pathfinder's hero points. It's the same thing. It's just inspiration, basically, but you get three of them. Um, you could. So it's just advantage, right? So if you have inspiration and you roll d20, first of all, the way it originally was, you had to declare it before you roll. No one played that way. Everyone plays like you roll, and if you roll bad, you go, "I'm using inspiration." It's not supposed to be how that's played. By the rules, inspiration, you declare it before you roll, which sucks because you could have rolled well and you just wasted your inspiration, right? You have no way of knowing. So you're just boosting your chances of rolling well, but you
yeah.
still could roll bad on both dice, right? You could roll a 5 and a 6, and then there goes your inspiration. Oh, well, that did a lot, right? Whereas in this game, because it's so versatile, like, and because there's no attack roll, you always hit. So it's always going to help you. Even if you roll a 1, it's still an
Yeah.
additional point that you're doing. And things don't have a tremendous amount of health here. In this game, the average creature has less than 20 health. So one extra point is still good. But not just that, you can expend the vengeance during a condition. There's no roll, it just ends. So if you're bleeding or if you're poisoned, you expend a vengeance dice. That made a huge impact in that combat. That turned that combat around,
Yeah.
right? So, at first glance, it looks like not that big of a deal, but it is a massively helpful resource and one of the strongest aspects of your character. Next, we're going to be talking about conditions. So, this is one of my favorite thing is actually the injury system. We'll get to that later, but conditions are things that happen in combat. Now, I didn't want conditions to work like in Pathfinder, where there's like 50 of them. And DC 20 has like 29 of them. Even D&D has a ton of conditions, and you have to remember that they're there and all this stuff. So I didn't want that to be the same in this game. So what I did was, well, because you're so engulfed in this feeling of retribution and vengeance, you're fending off things. So if you're poisoned, your body, kind of, you're shaking it off. If you're bleeding, you shake it off. Things like that. So to signify that, most conditions end automatically after one round. So basically, let's say you're mad, right? Something makes you mad, which in this game, madness, all it does is you can't determine who friend is and who a foe is, and so you attack whoever's nearest. So if you got the mad condition, you have to use an attack action to attack whoever's closest to you, whether they're friend or foe, right? But after one round, you like shake it off, and you're like, oh, what am I doing? And then you go back to normal. So a lot of those conditions, right? And after one round, dazed, you roll. It's dazed is like disadvantage. Terrified is you're scared, you run away, but then you gather your wits, and by the end of that round, you're no longer terrified. After you've run away for one round, now you come back and you're back at in the fight, and you can't be terrified again for 10 minutes. So you're actually I gotta capitalize that. You're actually shaking it off, and now you've overcome the fear of whatever it is you're facing, and you're no longer able to become afraid by that thing that made you afraid. So that's kind of how I wanted to handle conditions. Now there are some conditions that linger a little bit longer. Like I know I mentioned bleeding ending in one round, but that's not one of the conditions that ends early. Bleeding has an X value. So bleeding X. So let's say you're bleeding 3, you take 3 points of damage, and then next round the bleeding keeps going up. So you're bleeding out. That one, makes sense thematically for it to continue until you end it. Whereas burning also doesn't end in one round, but it does the opposite of bleeding. Instead of growing every round, it goes down. Like the fire eventually is going to be put out on its own if you don't put it out yourself. And then attribute reductions. Everyone hates permanent attribute reductions. I say everyone, a majority of people. Some people play OSR, say they don't care, but those are people I think that don't care about their characters.
Yeah.
I think having your main attributes be reduced. I'm not talking about like your burdens, like your physical health or mental health. This game does have permanent reductions of those if you die, but you're paid for that. Like you gain a benefit when that happens. So it's not like a bad thing necessarily. So unlike other games, specifically in the OSR, where you have like level drain, when we play D&D, when we were younger, we hated level drain. We didn't use it. I mean, it was the most annoying, and nobody liked it. It wasn't fun. It wasn't like
Yeah.
Did it make you afraid of the vampire? Sure, but
for a different reason. Like,
yeah, it just wasn't a fun mechanic. If you got drained 2 levels forever to gain those 2 levels back, it's like I might as well just make another character.
Yeah.
And so we stopped using them. The permanent reductions are not fun. I never liked them.
Yeah.
So we don't use them here. So I'm just going to briefly go over the disciplines. So this is how what we were talking about. These are your actual like powers and abilities. You learn disciplines, and then you have masteries, which are your abilities within those disciplines. So here's a list of the groups: alchemy, forbidden knowledge, tactics, violence. Those are the groups. And then the disciplines within those groups, we have several chemical disciplines: apothecary, pyromancy, rhymecraft, rotmancy, surgeon, coil, and toxicology. For forbidden knowledge, that's like magic. You have blood magic, delirium, hexes, necromancy, wraithcraft, and so on and so forth, right? And within these disciplines are masteries. So, like, these are the general masteries that you can learn. Then you have your alchemy disciplines. You have apothecary has several masteries that you can learn within it. Pyromancy has several, and they're all like kind of grouped in that way. So you can customize your character in pretty much any way you want, because you can have a character who um, knows, and there's no limit to how many you can know. So you can have a character who knows rotmancy, and then also necromancy. So this is a character who has studied the alchemical elements of rot and disease, but also has studied the magical elements of bringing back the dead. Um, and you can learn those two. And then maybe that same character also is good at skulking and can hide and skulk and hide in shadows and things like that, you know? So you can literally pick whatever you want and build your character exactly how you want. You can pick one discipline if you want, or none. So if you want to hyper specialize in necromancy, you can just know necromancy and that's it. And then, learn six masteries of all of necromancy. So you have six necromancy masteries that your character knows, and that's it, nothing else. So you can really hyper specialize, or you can make a character that's more well rounded or has a particular theme that they're going for and all that kind of stuff. And you can see here, this is one of the biggest chapters in the book because there are dozens and dozens of masteries in the game. Then we have the equipment chapter. So equipment in this game, you have 10 total equipment slots. And so you have to be very strategic with how you pick things, because those slots will be filled very quickly. Plus, since we don't use any currency, your character can start with any equipment they want in the game. If you want to start with 10 longswords, absolutely go for it. you know,
10, 10 what was Cameron? 10 halberds or something? Or
yeah.
10
No, 10 spears or something he carried on his back. Like in D&D, I literally had a campaign where where one of my players was throwing spears, and I'm like, how many spears does your character have? I have 20. Like, dude, how are you walking around with 20 spears on your back? Plus armor, plus this, plus that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wanted this game because everything in this game, there's kind of a recurring theme of you get a benefit, but at a cost, right? So everything in this game should feel that way. And so that's kind of what I did with equipment as well. So you have light armor. And so people ask me when I tell them that there's no currency, well, what's to prevent someone from just getting the best armor and the best weapon? Nothing is preventing them from doing that, except the fact that light armor takes one equipment slot out of your 10. Medium armor takes two equipment slots. Heavy armor takes three. That's 3 out of 10. That's a third of your equipment slots almost, just for your armor.
Yeah.
Oh, you want a shield? That's another equipment slot. You want a helmet? Another equipment slot. So if you get heavy armor, a shield, and a helmet, you're well defended, but you only have 5 equipment slots left to buy anything else with, including your weapons. So you have to really think about your choices. Weapons, okay. What's preventing someone from getting the best weapon? Well, light weapons don't take up any slots. You can have as many light weapons as you want, and I highly recommend every character have at least one light weapon with them, because when you're grappled, you cannot use anything but a light weapon efficiently. So you're better off carrying one, and it doesn't take any equipment slots. One-handed weapons, okay. Oh, they're weaker than the other. Now, every weapon and armor have a special ability, so everything has something unique to them that makes them appealing for your character to take. But one-handed weapons take up one equipment slot. Two-handed weapons also one equipment slot. But as you get to the stronger weapons, like heavy weapons, they take up two equipment slots. So now if you're wearing heavy armor, a shield, a helm, and a heavy weapon, you're up to 7 equipment slots taken up just on your weapons and armor. So what's to prevent someone from taking the best of everything? That's what's preventing them. Plus, heavy armor has additional drawbacks. Like, you cannot put out the burning condition on yourself when you're wearing heavy armor. Think about, like, back in those days, why did people use burning tar when enemies were trying to climb a wall? Well, because when you're heavily armored, you cannot unarmor yourself very quickly. So that tar is burning the shit out of you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Whereas if you're wearing a leather armor, you can just undo it real quick and throw it, throw it to the ground. So heavy armor, you cannot take off the burning condition. You also cannot go hidden. You're too loud. You cannot become hidden. So there are some drawbacks to the better stuff. So that also is preventing people from taking the best of everything. And there are some really cool additional items that you can get with your additional equipment slots. But let's not forget ranged weapons, right? Because in this game, you really should be as well rounded as you can be in terms of your weapons and armor. You can't like when you first played the game. You remember our very first playtest session. You didn't know what the game was about, and you wanted to have a person walking around with no armor at all. You remember that?
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're crazy. Your character's gonna die. And you're like, well, I'm in my head. I wanted this character to do that. I go, well, this isn't that type of game because you shouldn't be going out at night in this horrific environment where things are, murderous creatures are coming out in the darkness, and you're walking around in a robe. Like that just doesn't make any sense. Or you're walking down the street when the brightest light is moonlight, and you have muggers and robbers all in every corner hiding in the shadows. You're an easy target. You're screaming out, "I'm an easy target" if you're walking around in a robe, right?
Yeah.
So so I wanted every character to be able to wear armor and use weapons. Every character. There are no wizards in this game. There are people who are armored warriors who have learned forbidden knowledge, and they can cast an incantation to stop their enemies or drain their enemies or whatever. That is the type of character that we have here. There are no wizards. There are no like druids and things like that. So, anyways, in addition to that, I think everyone should carry a ranged weapon because if you don't, you're at a heavy disadvantage. If you're 50 feet away from an enemy, you're going to have to waste two entire rounds just moving to them, assuming they don't move, right? And they're taking pot shots at you. Now, if you have ranged weapons, you can at least get behind stuff and fire back and defend yourself. But if you don't have any ranged weapons, you're at a massive disadvantage here because these creatures are going to be able to take pot shots at you, and there's nothing that you can do about it. So now, again, the person that took all the best of everything, right? Heavy armor, 3 slots. Shield, 1 slot. Helmet, 1 slot. It's 5 slots. Heavy weapon, 2 slots. That's 7 slots. And then they take, let's say, a crossbow. Now they're at 8 slots. They have 2 slots left, right? So if they find a relic, a tome, or something really cool, they don't have that many empty slots to pick that up in. But also, we have additional equipment that they can pick. That again, since there's no currency, you can buy as many of these as you want, as long as you have enough equipment slots for them. So you have things that will heal you. You have things that will prevent bleeding or other conditions like poison condition. But all of them have a cost associated with them. Not only do they take up a slot, but they also like if you take something that heals you, it might hurt your mind. If you have something that heals your mind, it might hurt your body, that kind of stuff. So, give and take, everything has a cost. But these are cool items that you can pick up for your character with any additional slots you might have when you're making your character. All right. We're almost done here. Sorry, I know this is a longer one. I know you're really tired, Gio. But this one is the last chapter that we'll cover today. And then we'll go into the bestiary another time. But the price of fragility is one of the big parts of the game. This is what changes your character. This is what turns them into something else by the time they're done with their vengeance quest. Because as you go through your adventures, you will suffer defeats. You will get dropped down to 0 and take an injury, take a mental injury, a mental scar, and then your character begins to change then. So what happens is when you're reduced to 0, you can either get medical aid, or you can only do that a certain number of times. After that, you'll have to take a permanent injury. And as you get more permanent injuries, you start really changing. Your health starts to drop, all that stuff. And so we have temporary insanity, we have physical wounds, permanent injuries, all that stuff. And we have tables for we have sub tables that you can roll on that will allow your character to get some mental scars and wounds that will then help you role play them later. And you'll remember, whatever, if that zombie, scratched you across your back and opened your back with a zipper wound on your back, you'll remember that for a long time. You'll think back, oh, how did I get that wound? I have it on my character sheet. Oh, yeah, that zombie scratched my back
Yeah,
and
and
opened,
I
zippered my
remember
back.
specifically one of the playtests we did. One of my characters ended up being afraid of the rain, and it's like, whoa,
Yeah,
man, okay. And then so you write that into your story. Why is he all of a sudden, because he was killed, is he suddenly afraid of the rain? And it's like, okay, the sound of the arrows, thumping, choo 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 choo, all around his body when he fell, you know, embedded in his mind as raindrop. And every time he hears raindrops, that's what he pictures. And it makes for such a rich story for your character.
yeah,
That it
yeah.
and like I still remember it was from a playtest one shot. Like, man,
I remember that was super fun. So, one thing I wanted to do here, this is our online character builder. You'll see up here it says vulturesplaytest.com. That's because initially that was the playtest. But right now it's active with the current parts of the game. So if you wanted to mess around, those few of you who watch this video will have access to this. I'm not going to share this site with too many people, but here are all the archetypes you can pick from. You can build your character. We did a character build last week, right?
yep,
But yeah, what I wanted to come here and do is to finish off this video is just have some fun with some of these injuries, right? Just to kind of show people how it works with the injury tables and what kind of things you can get. So Gio, why don't we do this, right? We'll I'll roll because I created a randomizer on the character builder. So now we actually have all the tables, the mental scars tables and all that stuff. And we can roll and get random stuff.
all right.
So let's just say your character um let's say your character gains a mental scar. So he goes down, he's fighting some kind of witch. She messes up his mind, drops him to 0 mental health, and he wants to keep fighting. So he takes a mental scar so he can continue the fight. So we roll 2d8. You roll the 15. You develop resentment for something you once loved or held in high regard, in high esteem. And you work with your fate binder with that. So you start to resent something that you once loved. That's pretty serious. That really changes your character. You could have your pet dog
Yeah.
waiting for you. That's all that lived, John Wick. But
Heck
guess
yeah.
what? Now you're starting to resent the dog because you've gone on this quest and you've gone through all these horrors and horrific things like facing this witch that now has messed you up, and now you resent the dog for what it did to you.
It's just
Um,
crazy. Like, man, what a huge change to the character that would be, man. If the dog was like a John Wick, right?
yeah.
It, uh, and for your character, and then all of a sudden now you resent your dog.
But it's
Like,
pretty
who?
realistic. Like you could
Yeah,
you could be like, I'm going on this quest because I love this thing so much, or this dog so much. But then like as you're going through this and suffering pain after, you know, mental injury and horrors and seeing all these things that you don't think you should ever have been witness to, maybe you start to blame the dog for making you you know, for causing you to love it so much and forcing
yeah,
you
it
to go on
happens
this
in real
vengeance
life
quest.
for so many different things. Like a lot of people who cheat on their partner, they end up resenting their partner because the partner
Yep.
didn't catch them or stop them from cheating or whatever, or did something that they feel led them to cheat, and they end up resenting their partner. So
All right.
you
So
can end up,
permanent injury. Tell me
yeah.
what you were fighting that injured you badly.
We're rolling a new one.
Yeah, we'll roll, but you tell me what it was you were fighting that injured you.
Okay, so we're in the swamp, and this big snake-like creature, this disgusting mud snake, came out, wrapped itself around my freaking throat, knocked
Okay.
me out, almost killed me.
Permanent injury. You suffer a horrible wound on the gruesome and unusual injuries table. And from that table, you rolled a ruptured belly.
Oh,
So it
hey, it
wrapped
makes
itself
sense though.
around you and
It wrapped
squeezed so hard your belly
your
ruptured.
belly ruptures. That's crazy. Oh, that's great though. It fit in perfectly.
I love it. I love it. Um, Another way to get scars, you can get mental scars right on character creation. If you choose to learn forbidden knowledge, these are spells. So spells have a cost. They have a mental cost whenever you cast them. They don't hurt your party members. There's no like miscast or stuff like that. I don't like that kind of mechanic, so I didn't put it in here. But personally, it does affect you, the caster. So there is a cost to spells are powerful, but you know they affect your mind. And so when you learn any forbidden knowledge, when you learn any spell or any discipline, sorry, that is a forbidden knowledge discipline, you have to take a mental scar right from the beginning. Now when you do make your character, you actually can choose from the mental scars tables. You can choose which table you roll on. So unlike these where if a creature does something to you mentally, it's random which mental scar you get. Here, it is random with scar, but as far as the type of scar, mental scar you get, you can actually choose. So let's say your character decided to, or found a tome which led him to learn some magic, and this is what inspired him to go on his vengeance quest, right? So your character was left for dead, and then on his journey back home to see what was left of his home, he stumbled upon a ruined temple, and within that temple, while he was resting, he found a tome, and that tome taught him some forbidden magics. And then it inspired him. He said, with this, I can get revenge on this person that did this to me. But while he read that tome, it affected his mind. So, what type of mental scar out of this list? Can you see the drop down? I don't see it on the feed.
I don't see the drop down now.
Okay, so I'll read them out to you: phobia, obsession, uncontrollable tic, urges, addictions, hallucinations, or delusions.
All right, so he learned some magic that causes the opponent to itch uncontrollably. So um let's give him a tick.
Uncontrollable tics. So you roll on the uncontrollable tic table. You have shaky hands. It makes
And that
sense. I
makes
mean,
sense.
you went through all that and learned this magic, and you're still
Like
nervous about it.
cause people to itch, and I'm shaky, so it's like from like I see them being itchy and wanting to scratch, so now my own hands are also shaky.
But let's
Makes
say
sense.
you also found a relic, an ancient relic that speaks to you and granted you additional magical powers. So you have two different disciplines of magic that you've learned, and therefore two mental scars. Pick phobia, obsession. Well, not we won't do ticks on this one. Phobia, obsession, urges, addiction, hallucination, or delusion.
Let's go with urges.
You feel you have to prove your dominance
Oh man.
constantly. Very nice. So
Wow.
you have a character whose hands shake, but has some kind of insecurity and has an urge to prove dominance over
Oh,
others.
that's great.
Very cool. So yeah, in this character builder, you can actually pick your injuries and scars, and it'll add them right to your character sheet as you build your character. Um, so we've built this as part of the game. Everyone gets access to this character builder. It's not going to be under a paywall. You don't even have to enter an email to use it. You just hop on the site, use it, build your character, play the game. Um, we may implement a sign-in thing if I find that people are abusing this or whatever, but for now this is how it's going to be, free to
Yeah.
use for everyone.
Yep. Yep.
Cool. And so that's I think we went pretty long, so I think that's all I'm going to show for now. We went pretty deep, didn't we? Into a lot of
Yeah.
the aspects into the book. People got to see the book is actually finished, as you can see. I mean, chapter after chapter after chapter, I showed you hundreds of pages. The book is pretty much done. There are some pieces of art that you've seen that are still missing that I got to finish, but the Kickstarter doesn't launch for a couple of weeks and then it goes on
Yeah.
for a month. Those pieces of art will be done by the time the Kickstarter ends.
The important stuff is done. The mechanics aren't going to change. It's not like we're undecided on how initiative is going to work and then change it 50 times after you've already ended the Kickstarter. It's all done. The gameplay itself is complete. All the tables are done. All the stats are done. For the monsters,
11
everything that's
adventures.
important. What's that?
We have 11 adventures and the world
11
guide
adventures.
with
More coming because we have several more done. We just have to
we
do
have
the
like
art
30
and all that.
adventures
Yeah.
done, at least as far as like the concepts and everything. We just have to lay them out and all that stuff. And we have over 100 adventures in terms of the themes and the story, the base stories, that we just have to
Yeah.
put them on paper. So we have plenty of content coming for this game. But I can't wait for you guys to see the rest. The world guide, which is going to include all the lore, the demon lore that we went over, with the changelings, the black veins, the cold blood lore with the nine temples, all that stuff, the Ashenborn with the despair. You can see that every breed, we put a lot of thought into every single aspect of this game so that the lore makes sense, right? We were inspired by real world stuff, by other games, by movies, TV shows, all this stuff. We took all
And
the
feedback.
inspiration that
And by
of
feedback. Yeah.
things we love, and we brought it all together into this game.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is 3 years of work for you. When you first came up with the concept, man, wow, that was so many campaigns ago.
Yeah.
It was during when I was playing the Frost Maiden.
Yeah, Rime of the Frostmaiden.
That's
Yeah,
when you
I
came up
hadn't
with the
even done
idea.
Ishizu yet.
Yeah.
We hadn't even done Ishizu yet. I was still
Yeah.
writing
Oh my gosh.
Horror
Yeah.
Ishizu Learning.
Ishizu wasn't done yet.
Yeah,
Oh, this is a long time ago, man.
yeah, yeah. So I can't wait to get this into your guys' hands. Hopefully, you guys liked it enough where it maybe piqued your curiosity to learn more. Definitely look into the Kickstarter. Oh, I did promise that we are going to show the Kickstarter page. I'll do it very quickly.
Oh
I
yeah.
promise. So I'm going to share the screen. Those of you who stuck around to the very end, you get to see the Kickstarter page before it goes live. Here it is. Left for the Vultures. I'm going to play the video. Can you hear the audio?
I can hear it.
Gio?
I hear it.
Yep. You can hear it?
I can hear it and I can see it.
Yeah. God, I love that.
Yeah.
So that's the teaser video. What?
I was singing.
Okay, guys. So here's the rest of the page. So that's our teaser video. So what's left for the Vultures RPG? So here's the. You can kind of see some of the pledge levels. That's again. I know it's really small, so you may not be able to see all of it, but I'm not going to talk too much about it. Basically, I did more plain, text than we did for Dragons on purpose. I just wanted to be like it speaks for itself type of thing. Here's the 10-player breeds, maybe 11 if we hit the stretch goal. Injuries and mental scars, we went over those. We did a few. Here's the premium edition cover, which has the Vultures logo, it's hard to see it on my sweater, but there it is. Here's the 10 adventures. I know again it's really small to see, but these are the 10 different adventures that are already written, and the 11th adventure. I know I said 11 adventures. Is a 72-hour bonus. So if you back within the first 72 hours, you get this adventure for free called The Children of Anselm. It's about the Ashenborn, a tribe of Ashenborn called the Grey Suns, and an extremist within that group who calls himself a child of Anselm. And he is trying to kind of branch off and do some crazy things with his Ashenborn tribe. So, really cool adventure. You can get it free if you back within the first 72 hours. After that, you can always buy it as an add on. Pre-made character folios, then the world guide, which is going to be all the lore that we talked about for Left for the Vultures, which I think we spent a lot of time with the lore, inspired by real things, and put a lot of thought into it. It's not just things that are slapped together for the heck of it. It all
Yeah.
makes sense. And these are the different reward tiers and the things that you get within. Some add-ons like the quick start guide, the Children of Anselm adventure if you're in back within the first 72 hours, additional characters. And in the page, I explained the gameplay. We went over it a little bit here. We didn't go into full detail on how the game plays, but we did kind of an overview. And we're doing kind of an overview here as well. Oh, this is a cool art. The trap that's just like cutting the guy's face open. I know you like this piece. This is like a
Yeah,
undead
it's one of my
gremlin, a vampiric
favorites.
gremlin.
Yeah. It's funny because gremlins are one of my favorite, or probably my favorite breed in your game. And then one of my favorite art pieces that you did was that gremlin. And then one of my favorite drawings that I've done is of a gremlin too for one of the adventures.
Yes, that was a cool
Yeah, that
piece,
came out
which is
cool.
in one of our D&D adventures right now. That was originally written for this game, and it will be out for this game eventually.
Yeah.
Oh, who are these two good-looking guys here? I don't know. Some testimonials, risk, and then all that stuff. So, yeah, just a kind of an insider's look at our page. Kickstarter launches in less than 2 weeks, guys. So, please
And
follow the
digital
page. Just go.
rewards go out like
Yep.
2 or 3 weeks after the end of the Kickstarter. So you're not going to be waiting 2.5 years with promises. We're not going to make you pay our Patreon every month to, get updates. There's no need for updates because you're going to get the digital it's written. So you're going to get the
Yep.
digital rewards right away. No waiting.
Physical rewards take a little bit longer.
You.
That's why we're running the campaign, is to get the money to buy to do the print run in China. So the physical rewards you will get them before the end of the year, so in a few months. But the digital rewards you'll get like immediately,
Right,
and by immediately with Kickstarter that means 2 weeks after the campaign ends.
Yeah.
And you saw the book is done. You guys have seen it. So I'm not just putting that and hoping that I finish it before and try to rush through that. No.
Yeah.
This is done. This isn't like some other Kickstarters who said, the game is done. We just got a few things to tweak. And then 2 years later.
Yeah. And I think the worst part of some of those is not the fact that they're taking long, because that can happen. You get delays or whatever. It's the fact that for updates, you have to pay a monthly fee to the Patreons. It's like sleazy. Because then what's your motivation to get it done if you're getting paid every month just to keep it going? Like
keep stringing people along. Do new editions.
Man.
When you run out of your when you run out of your .1, .2, .3, just make them some weird math numbers. .11, .12, .13.
Oh, jeez.
Sorry for the shade. I think some of you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, thank you guys very much for hanging out. This was a longer stream. We really wanted to showcase the game and show you that everything's done. Give you guys an insider look. Not everyone's getting to see all these little details of the game. Even some people who back the Kickstarter, they may not watch this video and they may not know everything that they're getting, but you guys are getting some really, really detailed information here in this video of what the game is about. So if it sounds like something that you'd want to play at your table, I think you would love to play it at your table. I really think you'll have a great time playing it.
Give it a shot.
Give it a shot. Back us on Kickstarter.
Yeah.
Just go to leftforthevultures.com and follow the campaign for now, and then you'll be notified when it launches. But thank you guys for hanging out. I know this was a really, really long video, but I really wanted to dedicate the time to show you everything that we've worked on so far because we're very excited to bring this to you and we can't wait until launch day, August
Yeah.
11th. Thank you guys for hanging out. My name is Vase Odin. I am the lead designer for Left for the Vultures, and today with me, my co-host.
Geo from the Headless Hammerhead YouTube channel. Remember, when you seduce, don't seduce with speed. You remember that?
No, I don't remember. What's that from?
What? You don't remember? Like there was a guy who had like you remember during the whole pickup artist thing,
Yeah,
and then Mystery had a show or whatever. He did some kind of
I remember that
seminar,
show.
and then one of them there was this old guy who had like speed seduction, and he talked about like, and he got on a bunch of shows like talk shows, daytime talk shows and stuff, and like Mari Povich or something,
Really?
and speed seduction, yeah, and so all the other people in the pickup artist world made fun of this guy. So Mystery is doing the Mystery. Oh, that's what it was. He went on as a guest to one of the what was that other group? There was a group of pickup artists, and he came in as a guest speaker.
Real
And he
Social
came,
Dynamics.
yeah, Real Social Dynamics. And so Mystery came on as a guest speaker for them. And he's like, yeah, so when you do that, you're seducing with speed. And totally throwing shade, you know. Everybody knew what he was talking about because of
That's
speed
so
seduction.
funny.
You don't remember that, bro? It was
I
awesome.
don't remember
I'll
that.
never
But
forget it.
I thought you were gonna give one of the slogans like this one.
Yes, take the blood and leave the bones.
But
That's an awesome
don't
sweater.
seduce him with speed, that works too.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Thanks for hanging out. Talk to you guys real soon.